I'm Nira Berry, the happiness coach, motivational speaker, and your host of Happy and Healthy, where we explore and discover all the many ways of keeping you feeling happy and healthy. And remember to stay tuned to the end, where I've got something good to share with you for my Good to Know segment. So stay tuned. And today in our interview, we're going to learn about foods that are commonly thought of as healthy, but may actually not be so healthy, especially during this time of COVID. And it's really good to learn about how all the seasons and foods and how it affects our bodies. So please welcome my guest today. She's Amita Jain, and she's Doctor of Ayurveda. So thank you so much, Amita, for being here today on our Zoom interview. Well, I'm so glad because I really am so interested in all this, and I think it can really help our viewers. So I know you practice Ayurveda, and this is like India's 4,000-year-old medical system that's become really popular here in the West, especially during recent years. So what's important about this for us to know now, especially during this global pandemic?
Today, I really want to address some of the commonly thought of health foods that may actually not be leading us to good health and contributing to some of the symptoms we might be experiencing on a daily basis. We are in the height of this pandemic, and most of us are being safe, staying at home, but that leaves us exposed to our kitchens. And we're just a few feet away, and it's very tempting to snack and munch. I'm sure many of the viewers who are watching us are health conscious. That's why you're watching the show. And you're probably relying on health foods that you're being told are good for you and highly nutritious. And it may very well be that those foods are nutritious, but if we're having them in excess or we're having the wrong kinds of those health foods right now, it could actually be leading us to imbalance and ultimately to the start of illness and disease. So I want to address what some of those foods are and what we can do to stay healthy. A little bit on Ayurveda. As you mentioned, Nira, Ayurveda is India's old medical system, still very widely practiced today. And Ayurveda states that the root cause of every disease, illness, and even pain symptoms are due to some imbalance within our bodies or our minds. And it defines health as a process, not a single state of being. It's the art of finding that balance and maintaining it throughout all our daily activities and the kinds of foods that we eat. So whenever there is we're slightly off on one side, whether it's mental or whether it's physical, and we don't correct that, we start to find ourselves falling out of balance. So to demonstrate,
True, yeah, that's so true. It's when you're not in balance, everything just starts falling apart.
absolutely. So think of this as a seesaw. Okay, when both people of equal weight are sitting on it, it's in perfect equilibrium, and that's actually the state we want to achieve. Now imagine if somebody heavy sits on one end and somebody light on the other, like a father and his child. The seesaw sinks down, right? The heavy person falls to the ground. But the person on the other hand is also uncomfortable, right? They're lifted high up in the air. So what do we need to do? We need to put someone heavier on the other end to balance the weight. So it's the same in our bodies.
Oh, that's so interesting. Can you give us like an example of that? Like a
Yeah.
specific example?
Yes. So I want to start with the climate that we're in because we are exposed to the elements around us in our environment, in our universe right now. In the fall, in the colder temperatures, the qualities in the air, if you think about it, are cold, light, dry, and rough. So when we're exposed to those qualities, those same elements that reside within us also tend to increase, right? We feel cold in the winter because of coldness in our bodies. Sometimes our skin gets drier in the colder weather. But now, if we also start eating foods that have those qualities, then that imbalance starts, and we accumulate too much coldness, lightness, and dryness within us, and that will lead to all kinds of symptoms, such as dry hair, hair falling out. So if you're losing a lot of hair when the colder temperatures come around, listen up. Very dry skin, digestive issues like bloating, gas, or even constipation. The dryness in our joints will cause joint pain. So a lot of people will come to me in my clinic and tell me that their joint pains have actually increased when they get into the colder climates, and this is the reason why. But also mental issues like anxiety, brain fog, decrease in ability to concentrate and remember things. And it's quite amazing to see the connection between the foods we eat, the environment we're in, the activities that we partake in, and how it affects us. So
That's really so interesting, and I feel like going like, okay, check, 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 check. Especially now when it's really cold. So what are some things that we can do?
well, let me give you an example of certain foods that you might consider healthy and you're eating them and what it's going to do to your body, and then what we can do to balance that. So let's take, for example, one of the healthiest foods, an apple. Okay, apple a day keeps the doctor away, and indeed, an apple is highly nutritious and full of vitamins and minerals. But an apple has the qualities of light, dry, and cold. So if you're eating an apple every day in the fall and in the winter, and you have the symptoms of constipation, bloating, or the others that I mentioned, then in order to balance this, what you can do is simply stew the apple. So you stew the apple for 2 minutes, and what happens, the qualities of that apple tend to change, and the apple now, instead of being dry and light, is moist, is warm, and is a bit heavier. And so when we eat it now, we're able to digest it better, and we're keeping that internal balance. So another thing that we can do,
Interesting.
yeah, and it's so quick. It takes 2 minutes to stew an apple. You can add some cloves and cinnamon, and it's a highly nutritious, wonderful breakfast. Another example, this is not the time or the season to be eating salads. Uh, you might be thinking, well, I'm a super healthy person. I want to stay low calorie, and so I'm having lettuce and spinach and raw carrots, and you eat it, and you think you did the right thing, but then an hour later, you start to feel like, why is that not digesting well? Because raw foods have those same qualities, light, dry, and cold. So instead, you want to gear your diet towards cooked, warm, nourishing food.
Wow. So besides like an apple, so what you're saying is that like instead of having like a cold salad, have like cooked vegetables. But do we get the same nutrition from that?
Yeah, actually, you're going to be able to get more of the nutritional value because you can digest and assimilate the food better, because our digestive systems tend to be weaker in this climate. So let's say instead of a salad, you prepare a one pot meal with a healthy whole grain, with cooked vegetables, lentils, and then spices. Spices are really key right now because they help us to digest the food and they create heat and warmth in our bodies. And you can prepare this nice warm dish in 30 minutes to an hour in your instant pot or slow cooker or just on the stovetop, and you have a very nutritious meal that's going to digest better and leave you feeling more energetic and happier and healthier.
So you mentioned that that the spices help us digest things better. Like which ones are you speaking about?
You can use any of the spices that suit you, but give special emphasis to cumin, turmeric, ginger, garlic, onion, and I want to especially emphasize the use of ginger. Ginger is so balancing right now because it produces that heat in our bodies, helps us to digest foods better. It's also exceptional for joint pain and a number of other pain type of issues in our body or inflammation. So ginger is wonderful. You can add it to your cooking. You can make it as a decoction or a tea, drink ginger herbal tea. And literally after a cup or two, you can experience changes in your body. It's that powerful. Ginger is wonderful.
Wow. And so for how long does it would it take, let's say somebody changed their eating habits, how long would it take for you to notice a difference?
Well, it could take anywhere from days to weeks, depending on the symptoms that you're currently experiencing. So, for example, I had a client recently who had been suffering from constipation. She said for as long as she could remember. She was in her mid 40s, and she thinks from the time she was a child, she had been chronically constipated. She followed a pretty strict protocol that I gave her in terms of diet and food, similar to what I'm telling you, as well as some herbal supplements. And it took her 30 days. But in 30 days, she had resolved her constipation. She was feeling wonderful. But here's the mistake that she did. She then said, well, I'm feeling great. My digestion is optimal. Now I'm going to try to focus on my weight loss, and I'm going to start to do this intermittent fasting. And
Oh, I want to hear more about the intermittent fasting because I know that that's really, really popular. But we just need to take a short break, and then we're going to come right back and hear more about all the latest fads and what they're really doing to our body and what we should know about. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back. Hi, welcome back to Happy and Healthy. I'm Mira Berry, your host, and we're learning all about eating healthy with Ayurvedic type foods and what we should know about being healthy and happy during this time. So, welcome back to Amita Jain, and she's been telling us all about eating well, and so now she's going to tell us more about intermittent fasting.
so I mentioned about my client who had resolved her digestive troubles, tried to then lose some weight, decided to go on an intermittent fast. And within 1 week, all her digestive troubles came back. So, intermittent fasting is wonderful for certain conditions and certain types of people at the right time, conducted in the right way. So, if you are thinking about doing it, I would definitely suggest talking to a practitioner who understands how fasting works and understands your unique body type and what your health issues are, because it's certainly not for everyone. And there would be different intervals of fasting times to adhere to. So I welcome any of you to come and see me for guidance on that or see your nutritionist.
Yeah, I had a question about that. I know somebody that tried it, and he noticed that his blood pressure went up when he didn't eat for like an extended period of time. Have you noticed that? Is that a common symptom?
Yes, you can have blood pressure going up. You can even have blood pressure dropping. Sugar fluctuations as well can be quite drastic. And weight loss doesn't always happen because we need to understand what the root cause is for why you're keeping on the weight. And sometimes intermittent fasting will address it, but sometimes it won't.
Hmm. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's really very individual, and it depends. How you do it depends on your own body type and what's going on. So that's good to know. And there's also other types of diets that people adhere to, such as keto diet. How does what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Well, there's a lot of trends in diet these days. There's keto, there's plant-based and low carb and high protein, no fat. It's the whole gamut. And as we're talking about right now, the season and the qualities that I mentioned that can take us out of balance, I just want to emphasize that uh, some of these diets might incorporate food items that for your particular body type or constitution might not be the right food. So just because something or a diet trend has been working for hundreds of other people or working for your friends and incorporates healthy food items, what's more important is how you are digesting and assimilating those foods. Okay, so for example, with meat, it agrees with some people. In other people, it causes them to be too heavy in their bellies, and they feel the results of that. Now, the plant-based diet also good for some people and not for others. Now, I am a proponent of plant-based foods, and I eat plant-based myself. However, again, you can have too much of dry, cold, and light foods that will actually lead you to not losing weight and not getting more energy and not getting rid of your pain. You need to balance that out. So, for example, if you are taking a lot of plant-based foods or you are doing the keto diet, you want to make sure that you have healthy fats in your diet, like have a lot of avocados right now, sweet potatoes, high quality organic, preferably non-homogenized dairy products from our local community farmers. They're now available in some of the health food stores. Don't strictly remain off of grains, okay? Because again, not all people are going to thrive off of being grain free. So instead, look for grains that have not been genetically modified and pesticide free. Incorporate in your diet, cooked in the proper way.
Hmm, that's interesting. And also, I'm curious about like water and like as far as like I know we're told to drink a lot of water. Is there too much water that we can drink? And also, I wanted to find out your thoughts on bottled water.
Good, good. Well, yeah, that too. So many kinds of waters, and now there's fruit waters and mineral waters. What do we drink? The ideal type of water is room temperature, preferably spring water, not out of a bottle. But who has access to that, right? So you can get filters in your home. You definitely don't want to be drinking tap water. I mean, that is for sure. It is so heavy in a number of chemicals that we don't want. So get a good filter at home, and then you can add to your water. So you can just take a couple of fruit that you have in the fridge, mash it up, throw it in your water, and over the next few hours, that is going to make the water more palatable and also more nutritious. But right now in the colder climate, the best thing you can drink is warm water or hot herbal teas. So pick your favorite herb, and in the morning, make a flask of that hot herbal tea and drink it in 3 or 4 ounces throughout the day. It's so wonderful, and it helps to keep your body warm from the inside and balance all of the coldness around us.
Well, that's good to know. And I'm assuming that bottled water is not something good to have, right?
Correct, correct. I mean, we want to stay away from the plastics as much as we can, and be taking natural sources of water. The other thing I want to add is a lot of people will keep bottled water in the fridge. So now it's a double attack. One, you're drinking from plastic, and two, you're drinking it cold from the fridge. When you put cold water in your bodies, it's like a shock to your system. And I know that it may be harder to drink room temperature water, but at least right now, and if you're having any of the symptoms that I mentioned, stay away from cold foods and cold drinks.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask you really fast about, things that like we munch on, because I'm always like wanting to grab something. And so what do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm getting that asked a lot too, and I like to munch myself. Well, one of the real common sort of health munching foods that we all might be doing is eating popcorn. Popcorn is low calorie and it tastes good, but popcorn is light and dry. So again, it can lead to having those symptoms. So
Ah,
what you can do is add some butter, some coconut oil, some olive oil, and just once the popcorn is cooked, mix it up in a little bit of that oil. So that's balancing out those light and dry qualities. We will digest it better and we won't feel bloated afterwards. You can even season it. Another thing you can do is take some dried fruits like nuts, dried raisins, or apricots, and cook those a bit, saute them in a bit of coconut oil, and have that as a snack. Sweet, juicy fruits are also a good snack right now. Try to be sticking to things that are in season.
well, that's good to know. So, Amita, if people want to find out more information about this and contact you, could you give us your website, please?
Sure, sure. I'm happy to provide any guidance, any more information to you. The name of my organization is a nonprofit. We help people manage chronic illness with natural therapies. It's called Vedic Health, and the website is vedichealth.org.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. And Amita, just really fast, what's your favorite go-to snack?
Oh gosh. I have to say a good home cooked granola and a hot green tea with that.
Oh, that sounds yummy. That sounds really yummy. So thank you, Amita, so much for giving us the heads up on how we can stay healthy, especially during this time and what we can eat. I really appreciate you being here for our interview. Thank you so much. So you've been watching Happy and Healthy, and we're going to continue for our next segment of Good to Know. So stay tuned. Welcome. Hi, I'm Nira Berry, the happiness coach, motivational speaker, and your host of Happy and Healthy. And now it's time for Good to Know. So, what's good to know, you may ask? And I'll say, well, you're tougher and wiser than you think. So, stay hopeful. These are challenging times we're all going through, and for some, worse than others. But for everyone, there's a big lesson we're all learning right now. We're learning how resilient we are. We have made it thus far. So, right now, it's important to hold steady, keep calm, as the slogan says, and remember there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And during this time of the global pandemic, it's easy to slip into that dark tunnel that seems like it's never going to end. However, keeping hopeful is important because it will end really soon. So, how does one stay hopeful, you may ask? By staying hopeful, we are putting ourselves in a state of denial. Like, aren't we doing that? I say no. As a certified health and wellness coach, I would never encourage any of my clients to pretend away their situation. But I know that when we expect things to get better, we act in that manner, right? We may focus on solutions to our issues rather than worrying about them. And that way we're better prepared, for the future. And being hopeful is a quality that will help us lead a less stressful life. Why? Because we're focusing on the positive rather than the negatives. So give yourself credit for what credit is due. Pat yourself on the back for what you have managed to do, whether it's just adjusting to the new normal schedule by getting your kids online for school on time, or just preparing meals on, just doing simple things. Especially when you have family or friends that are sick, it's tough to stay hopeful. But really, we're almost at the end of this. So I think we should all give ourselves credit for just even keeping our heads above water during this tough time, and really acknowledge that. And and we will overcome this, and we will overcome this. And so I really feel like you've got this, and really feel like you do. And so grab onto anything that makes you feel good, anything that's pleasant, and to have a connection. For example, I give my coaching clients ideas such as like maybe getting together with their friends outdoors or their family members and maybe doing things together so you don't feel like neglected. Or maybe there's somebody that does feel like neglected, like for instance, sharing tea together and making that a regular item in your life. So, give yourself for thinking about the silver linings. For instance, there are things that may have happened that may never have happened if you didn't go through this COVID situation, right? Maybe you've gotten together for birthday parties with people from all over the world that you may never have gotten together with. So take a minute to think about what silver linings have happened in your life during this pandemic. And this may be a good time to start a silver linings journal, or even a journal of, can you believe that this is what I had to do today? And it's a sarcastic look at your life today, looking for the funny. The ridiculousness in all situations is really the best way to go through life. So let me know what you think. I'm Nira Berry, the happiness coach, and you can reach me at info@niraberry.com. So thanks for watching Happy and Healthy. I'm Nira Berry, your host, and I hope you have a happy day.